Hello, I'm Jody Wolf, and you're watching Expoz. It is January. It's January, June 16, 2019, and it's 2:23 a.m. in Birmingham. I want to recap a little bit on the last blog. It's going to be short. When I read Matthew 24, verse 7, again, for nation shall rise against nation, and we're seeing that. We're seeing the beginning of it, the hostilities and the staging, the posturing. We see that, and there shall be famines and pestilences. Now get this, and earthquakes in diverse places. I'm thinking this. When people read that verse and it says, and there will be earthquakes in odd places or many places or different places outside of where they would normally have earthquakes, I believe they're reading that correctly. However, they're not mentioning the two statements that was made prior to that. There will be famines and pestilences and earthquakes. So famines and pestilences, they'll also be in different places, in diverse places. They'll be everywhere. What constitutes a famine? I believe that unless our nation has some hidden pockets here and there, and in Brazil, and even in Venezuela, if there's not more food brought this year, that could constitute a famine. If there's not enough food to feed everyone, that's a famine. People go to bed at night now hungry. That's a famine. And we are in those days. We just don't know how deep we're in at the moment. And I'm going to jump one more little topic here. I'm listening to different people say, no, I am a pre-trib rapture believer. This is why. Next guy said, no, I'm a mid-trib, and this is why. And the other guy says, I'm a post-trib, and this is why. The guy that said I'm post-trib, he added something that I've not quite heard other people toss this in when they're trying to convince you that you're going to go all the way through the whole tribulation. To start with, I disagree. I don't believe we'll go through any of the tribulation. That's God's judgments upon this nation and the world. But what he said, now, you're a Christian. You will be protected outside of the people that aren't saved. God will protect his own. Well, that's very possible that he'll protect his own. But the Bible also says the just and the unjust will get rained on. Well, let's use that for an example. Did we not have several hurricanes back to back? And you had good Christian, God-fearing people that lost all they had. Well, what that guy just said about his reason for picking a post-trib rapture was just shot right out the window. Those people weren't protected. We do get rained on. We do get the same things that our neighbor will get if he's a Christian or not. Let me tell you why I stand on pre-trib and how I might can convince you. The Bible clearly tells us, Jesus said, no man knows the day nor the hour. No man, only the Father in heaven. Jesus said that when he's talking to his disciples. He said, I don't know. He said, no man knows, only the Father in heaven. So that is good for you and I if we know how to count, if you know math a little bit, right? Math. It is addition, division, subtracting, adding. It's taken the number of days, 1260, which is 3.5 years, up until the time Satan enters into, or the false prophet, the temple and demands to be worshipped as God. Now, how does that make it so that I'll know the exact time? Well, if you don't know when the tribulation begins, but you do get to the day and you see Satan or the Antichrist walk into the temple, then you know 1260 days had just passed. And now you know you have exactly 1260 days left. So count it down. When you count 1259, boom, there'll be millions and millions and millions of people accept Christ on that last day. Christ said, no man knows the day nor the hour, only the Father in heaven. This is so that you won't think back in your mind, well, you know, and I've had people tell me this, and and I know you have too. I was witnessing to a guy, and this happened so many times when I was on the police department, and he was someone who rode with me on Tuesday nights. I witnessed to him. He said, I know, but it's so hard to give up the fun I'm having. I said, hey, I understand that. I do. I understand where you're coming from. Look, I was single at the time. I said, but you don't need to just bury a hatchet, make a change. God will change for you in your time, in his time. He'll move you to what he wants you to do. Well, that's the truth. A lot of people think, you know, I can just keep doing what I'm doing if I know that if Christ is going to come back on 1260th day in the second 3.5 years, then I'll do what I'm keep doing and have a good old time until the day before and accept Christ. And it doesn't work that way, guys. This is why we have to have a surprise rapture of the church. And the surprise is you're going, and everybody left will know when the end comes. But you will be out of Dodge. And it makes a lot of sense. That takes away all the trying to figure when will Christ come back. Well, he comes at a time when you least not know it and you're not thinking about it. It's not on your mind. But that's when he comes. And with these famines right now, we're going to have a lack of food worldwide. And meat, you see the spoiled meat and the horrible things they do to meat, even in supermarkets today. Good grief, I almost started eating 4-leaf clovers or something. But the food that the imports are going to be down over 60% and 75% in some cases. Look, this isn't anything but warnings to let you know we're entering the times of the end. we're there when we enter into the tribulation, whatever date and time that'll be. Wow, you just missed the boat. Had you called on Christ the day before, you'd been out of here. Now you'll go through the tribulation. Now you'll be subject to the horrors that tribulation will have in it. Now, people in the tribulation that accept Christ, clearly God said some of you will be caught, jailed, punished, tortured, and beheaded. So God tells you there, if you're in the tribulation when you accept Christ, then you can expect, some of you can expect this to happen to you. I don't want that to happen to me. But that's biblical. So we see that a famine's coming. We see that these viruses, the Ebola, bubonic plague, and no telling what else is out there. We know all kinds of things are out there that our government aren't telling you and that our media aren't telling you. They're telling the same tale over and over and over just to fill space, nothing more, to fill space. They don't make enough money to pay their bills as it is, so the multi-millionaire and billionaires that owns these stations will be selling them pretty soon. Guys, look, we're there. We're there. Just, you got to be ready. John 3:16, accept Christ, and boom, what happens? Then he will send to live in you the Holy Spirit, which is greater than anything out there. Greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world. But we're in the end days. Please know that. And just don't get caught thinking that it's the last day of the 7-year tribulation. That ain't going to be right. Jody Wolf, Expoz.